Brothers and sisters, history has changed today. A new chapter has been written in the power balance of the world. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, two nations bound not only by faith but by destiny, have signed a defense pact that has sent shockwaves across the globe. India is stunned, Israel is unsettled, America is speechless. Why? Because when two strong nations unite, they no longer stand alone. They become a force that cannot be ignored.
What that is, the world tried to divide us. They underestimated Pakistan's resilience. They doubted Saudi Arabia's leadership. But today, the alliance has proven that strength comes from unity.
This pact is not just about weapons, it's about trust, power, and the message we will rise together and no one can suppress us. Mark my words, this alliance is the beginning of a new era, a message to the enemies of peace. Your games are over. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are not only ready to defend themselves, they are ready to lead. Stand tall, be proud, because history remembers only those who dare to change the world. And today, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have dared. When we speak about the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Defence Pact as a historic alliance, we are not just talking about the signing of a piece of paper. We are talking about a defining moment in history. This alliance is a statement to the world, a message that two powerful nations, bound by centuries of brotherhood and shared destiny, have finally taken their relationship to the next level. For years, the bond between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has been visible in trade, culture, religion, and mutual support. But today it has stepped into the arena of global security and defense, where true power is measured and tested. This is not just about armies, bases, or defense equipment. This is about rewriting the global order and sending a shockwave across capitals like New Delhi, Tel Aviv, and Washington. They are shocked because they never thought this day would come. They underestimated the resilience of Pakistan. They miscalculated the vision of Saudi Arabia, and they never imagined what would happen if both decided to rise together with a single united voice. The term historic is used often, but here it truly fits, because alliances like this are not made every day. They are born in rare moments when nations recognize that their survival, their growth, and their honor require more than friendship. They require partnership, and this partnership has been forged in the fire of mutual respect. Pakistan brings to the table one of the strongest armies in the Muslim world, battle-hardened, disciplined, and trusted worldwide. Saudi Arabia brings unmatched financial resources, global influence, and leadership in the Muslim world. When you merge military strength with economic might, you create a combination that instantly commands attention and reshapes the balance of power. That is why India is restless. That is why Israel is unsettled. That is why America is silent but watchful. They know this is not just another diplomatic handshake. This is a powerful declaration of intent. The historic nature of this alliance lies in the fact that for decades outside powers tried to keep Muslim nations divided, weaker and dependent. The idea was simple. Keep them isolated so they could never rise together. But with this pact, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have broken the script. They have shown that when unity takes form, no global power can ignore it. The shock on the faces of those who never wanted to see such a partnership is proof that the move is bold, timely, and destined to change the future. History teaches us that alliances shape the world. NATO changed Europe, the Warsaw Pact defined the Cold War, and the US-Israel relationship reshaped the Middle East. Now, with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia stepping forward as partners in defense, a new page has been written in the global story. This is not about aggression, this is about dignity, sovereignty, and security. It is about telling the world we are here, we are united, and we are ready. The pact is historic because it also gives hope to millions across the Muslim world who have longed to see their nation stand tall together. For too long, they have watched outsiders interfere, exploit, and dominate. Now they see two pillars of strength come together to form a shield. This is more than politics. It is a symbol of awakening. It is the start of a journey where history will look back and say, this was the moment everything began to change. The signing of the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Defence Pact has not only strengthened ties between two powerful nations, it has also sent a ripple, a shockwave, that is being felt in every corner of the world. When India, Israel, and America first heard the news, their reactions revealed the depth of their concern. They are not surprised by cooperation. They are shaken by the scale of this alliance and the potential it carries. India, which has always tried to corner Pakistan diplomatically, suddenly finds itself facing a stronger, united neighbor, backed by the might of Saudi Arabia. The shock is real because India understands that this alliance gives Pakistan not only moral support, but also strategic depth, economic security, and greater global recognition. India's media debates are filled with unease, and its policymakers are busy recalculating every strategy because they know that the balance of power in South Asia has shifted overnight. Israel too has reason to be unsettled. For decades, Israel has maintained its dominance in the Middle East by ensuring that Muslim nations remain divided. Its strength was never just in its technology or military, but in exploiting disunity among its rivals. The announcement of a defense pact between Pakistan, the only Muslim country with nuclear capability, and Saudi Arabia, the leader of the Arab world, challenges Israel's long-standing advantage. It is not about an immediate threat of war, but about the psychological shift. When two nations like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia unite, the entire Muslim world looks towards them with hope. That unity has the potential to inspire others. And this is what Israel fears the most. For Israel, shock does not come from weapons, but from the possibility of losing the monopoly of influence in the region.
And then there is America. For decades, the United States has played the role of power broker in both South Asia and the Middle East. America's strategy has always been to keep control, to decide who gets support and who gets isolated, who is rewarded and who is punished. But this pact has caught Washington off guard because it signals independence. Saudi Arabia, one of America's closest partners, has shown that it can step into a new era of strategic decision-making without waiting for permission. Pakistan, which has faced endless pressure and sanctions from Washington, has demonstrated that it still has the strength to form global partnerships that bypass American approval. For America, the shock is deeper than political. It is symbolic. It represents a slow but undeniable shift of power away from Western capitals towards regional alliances that operate on their own terms.
The shockwaves do not end there. Across Europe, policymakers are watching carefully. In Tehran, there are questions about how this pact will affect Iran's position in the region. In Beijing, there are calculations about how this alliance might fit into China's long-term Belt and Road vision. The truth is, one agreement between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has created discussions, debates, and diplomatic recalculations from Delhi to Washington, from Tel Aviv to Moscow. That is the true power of this alliance. It forces the world to react. These shockwaves prove one thing. The world never expected such a bold move. They thought Pakistan would remain isolated under pressure. They assumed Saudi Arabia would never risk upsetting its Western ally. But both nations have rewritten the expectation. And now the shock felt in India, Israel, and America is a silent acknowledgement of the strength of this unity. The louder their concern, the clearer the proof that this pact has already achieved its first victory, changing the global conversation. The true strength of nations does not lie in the size of their armies or the amount of wealth they possess. It lies in their ability to stand together with unshakable unity. The Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Defence Pact has proven this reality with crystal clarity. For years, the world underestimated the influence of Muslim nations because they were divided, scattered, and often working at cross purposes. But the moment Pakistan and Saudi Arabia joined hands, the narrative changed. Alone, each country has its own weight, its own power, and its own influence. But together they become more than the sum of their parts. This unity has created a shield, a force that the world cannot dismiss or undermine. Pakistan, with its disciplined and battle-tested army, carries decades of military experience and the resilience of a nation that has faced countless trials. It has proven time and again that its soldiers are not only defenders of its borders, but also defenders of its honor. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, carries immense financial strength, influence over global energy markets, and leadership in the Muslim world as the guardian of the two holy mosques. Each nation has what the other complements, and that is where real power lies. When military strength merges with economic power, the alliance becomes unshakable. This is the reason why their unity sends tremors across the globe. It is not just about resources, it is about the synergy that emerges when two strong nations walk side by side with one vision and one purpose. Strength in unity is not measured by the number of weapons and stockpiles, it is measured by the fear it creates in the minds of adversaries and the hope it creates in the hearts of allies. Today, India, Israel, and America are not shocked simply because of a pact. They are shocked because they see the power of what unity can achieve. They know that divided Muslim nations can be influenced, manipulated, or sidelined. But united, they cannot be ignored. That is the essence of this alliance. This unity also breaks the chains of dependency that have long held nations back. For decades, Pakistan was pressured by economic challenges and external influences. Saudi Arabia often relied heavily on Western partnerships for security, but by coming together, both countries reduce their vulnerabilities and amplify their strengths. Pakistan gains financial backing and international leverage, while Saudi Arabia gains military depth and credibility on the battlefield. Together they write a story of independence, self-reliance, and collective strength. The power of this unity is not only practical, but also psychological. It tells the world that Muslim nations can overcome divisions, differences, and pressures to stand as one. It revives a sense of pride among millions of people who have long wished to see solidarity instead of fragmentation. The image of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signing this pact is more than a diplomatic gesture. It is a symbol that unity is possible, and when it happens, it is unstoppable. Strength in unity also sends a silent but powerful message to the enemies of peace. Those who thought they could dominate through divide and rule tactics now realize that the ground has shifted. They can no longer exploit weaknesses that once existed. The very idea of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia walking in lockstep changes the strategic calculations of those who wish to undermine them. It forces adversaries to think twice, to hesitate, and to acknowledge that a united front is harder to confront than two isolated entities. Ultimately, the strength of this unity is that it plants the seed of a larger vision. If two nations can rise above differences and create such a powerful partnership, it sparks the imagination of what could happen if more nations follow. It becomes an example, a model of how unity can turn vulnerability into invincibility. And that is why the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Pact is more than just a defense agreement. It is a living proof that strength and unity is the greatest weapon any nation can wield. When people first hear about a defense pact, they immediately imagine weapons, tanks, fighter jets, and military drills. But the truth of the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Defence Pact goes far beyond hardware. This agreement is not defined by missiles or artillery. It is defined by the trust, vision, and shared purpose that bind the two nations together. Weapons are temporary, but trust is permanent. Tanks may rust, jets may age, but the bond between two nations built on loyalty and common destiny can outlast generations. That is why this pact is more than a military contract. It is a declaration of unity on a deeper, more human level. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have always shared a connection that transcends politics. Their bond is rooted in faith, culture, and mutual respect. For decades, Pakistan has stood by Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has extended its support to Pakistan in times of need. This pact is not the beginning of a relationship, it is the evolution of one. It proves that true alliances are not measured by the size of the arsenal, but by the willingness to stand shoulder to shoulder when it matters most. That is why this agreement has power that cannot be measured on a battlefield. It carries the weight of sincerity and brotherhood. Beyond weapons, this pact is about security in its truest sense. The security of identity, sovereignty, and shared values. Both nations understand that defense is not just about protecting borders, but about protecting dignity. For Pakistan, it means reassurance that it is not alone in facing regional threats. For Saudi Arabia, it means having a trusted partner with proven military resilience. Together they have created an umbrella of protection that shields not only their territories, but also their people's hopes and dreams. This is a defense pact that safeguards the future as much as it does the present. The significance of going beyond weapons lies in the message it delivers to the rest of the world. Nations that depend solely on military equipment without genuine trust in their alliances often collapse when challenges arise. But when two nations trust each other beyond politics, beyond economics, and beyond military needs, their bond becomes unbreakable. That is what makes adversaries nervous. They can measure the size of weapons, but they cannot measure the strength of brotherhood. And it is this invisible strength that creates the loudest impact.
This pact also speaks to a broader vision. It signals that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are not only preparing for battles of today, but also preparing to shape the future. A future. A future where cooperation is not just about fighting wars, but about preventing them. A future where defense is not about destruction, but about deterrence. When two nations build trust so strong that enemies hesitate to act against them, that is when true defense is achieved. This pact, therefore, is not a step toward war, but a step toward lasting peace through strength and solidarity.
Beyond weapons also means beyond limitations. It means that the relationship is not transactional but transformational. Pakistan does not see Saudi Arabia as just a financial partner. And Saudi Arabia does not see Pakistan as just a military asset. They see each other as essential pillars of stability, each lifting the other higher. That kind of vision cannot be bought, cannot be forced, and cannot be broken by outside pressure. It grows naturally from decades of shared struggles and victories. So when critics try to dismiss this pact as a simple arms deal or a symbolic gesture, they fail to grasp its depth. They cannot see that the real power lies not in the machinery, but in the meaning. This pact proves that true alliances go beyond weapons, beyond strategies, beyond contracts. They are built on trust, respect, and the promise that in every challenge and every storm, two nations will stand together, not because they have to, but because they choose to. Every alliance carries a message, and the defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia carries one so loud and clear that it cannot be ignored. This agreement is not just between two nations, it is a declaration to the entire world. It tells friends and foes alike that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are no longer content to stand in the shadows of others. They have chosen to step forward, to lead, and to remind the world that strength comes from unity, courage, and conviction. The message is simple yet powerful. Muslim nations are not weak, they are not divided, and they are not to be underestimated any longer.
This pact speaks to adversaries who, for years, have thrived on the divisions of the Muslim world. To them it says, your time of exploiting disunity is over. For decades, external powers carved wedges between nations, playing them against each other for political and economic gain. But with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia coming together, the world has been reminded that unity is possible and that when it happens, it changes everything. The message to those who oppose them is clear. If you try to intimidate one, you will face both. If you threaten one, you will answer to both. That solidarity is more powerful than any weapon, more intimidating than any arsenal, because it builds unshakable confidence and removes fear from the equation.
But the message is not only directed at adversaries, it is also a beacon of hope for allies and for millions of people across the Muslim world who have long desired a sign of true cooperation. For them, this pact says, you are not alone. It tells nations struggling under pressure that unity is still achievable. It tells ordinary people who have grown tired of seeing disunity weaken their voice that a new chapter has begun. The psychological impact of this pact is just as significant as the military one. It inspires, it uplifts, and it gives people a renewed sense of pride that their nations are no longer content to be pawns on someone else's chessboard.
This pact also sends a message to the global powers who have long dictated the terms of alliances. To them, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are saying we will build our future on our terms. No longer will outside capitals decide who we should partner with, what policies we should adopt, or how we should define our security. This pact is a sign of independence, a demonstration that sovereign nations can chart their own course and forge bonds without asking for permission. It is a message that the balance of power is shifting and that the old rules of control are no longer absolute. The symbolism of this message is as important as the pact itself. In international politics, perception often shapes reality. By joining hands in this way, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia project strength not only to their enemies but to the entire world stage. They make it clear that they are no longer just reacting to global events. They are shaping them. This pact transforms them from players into leaders. And that transformation forces the world to pay attention. The message also reaches future generations. It tells young people in both nations that their countries are not weak, that they are not condemned to be followers, but that they have the capacity to lead. It plants seeds of pride, ambition, and responsibility. It says to every young boy and girl who wonders about the future, your nations are building it today, and you are part of something bigger than yourself. That kind of message carries power beyond borders and beyond time. So when the world looks at this defense pact, it must look deeper than weapons or strategies.
The real significance lies in the message it delivers. Unity is strength, dignity is non-negotiable, and the era of silence is over. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have spoken not just to each other but to the world, and the world has no choice but to listen. The Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Defence Pact is not just a document signed by leaders. It is the opening of a new era, a turning point that will be remembered in history. Nations often experience moments that define their trajectory, moments that separate the past from the future. This pact is one of those moments. For too long, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia were seen as important, but isolated players on the global stage, powerful in their own ways, but limited by dependence on others. With this alliance, they have broken that mold. They have shown that the future will not be shaped by those who cling to the past, but by those who dare to write a new story.
A new era means a new balance of power. It means that the old equations no longer work. For years, the strategic maps of South Asia and the Middle East were drawn with the assumption that Muslim nations would remain divided, dependent, and easy to pressure. But this pact redraws the map. It forces global powers to rethink their strategies and reconsider their influence. The world has suddenly realized that Pakistan and Saudi Arabia together are not just participants in the global order, they are potential architects of it. That realization alone signals the birth of a new chapter in international politics.
This new era is not just about strength in military terms, it is about independence of thought and action. By stepping into this pact, Saudi Arabia has proven that it will no longer be seen only as a client state of the West, and Pakistan has shown that it will not remain in the shadow of external pressure. Both nations are declaring that they have the courage to stand tall and decide their own destiny. This shift is profound because once nations taste true independence, they never go back to submission. The pact symbolizes that step forward into self-reliance, and that is why it represents an era of transformation.
A new era also brings new responsibilities. With this alliance, both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia must carry the weight of leadership. They are no longer just protecting their borders. They are setting an example for others. Their unity tells the Muslim world that division is not permanent and weakness is not destiny. They must now live up to that example because millions of eyes are watching. The world will measure their success, not just in military drills, but in how they inspire others to stand together, to rise above challenges, and to reclaim their dignity. This pact has set expectations that will shape the policies and actions of both nations in the years to come.
The new era marked by this alliance is also an era of hope. Hope for people who have grown tired of seeing their nations undermined, dictated to, or manipulated. Hope for young generations who want to believe that their countries can be more than pawns in someone else's game. Hope for allies who want a stronger, united front that can protect their interests and ensure stability. This is not just an agreement, it is a spark of confidence, a promise that tomorrow can look different from yesterday. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of this new era is the fear it instills in those who never wanted to see it happen. India fears a stronger Pakistan, Israel fears a more united Muslim front, and America fears losing its monopoly over influence in the region. Their unease is proof that a new order has begun, one where their dominance is no longer guaranteed. When the powerful are shaken, it means something historic has taken place.
So, the signing of this pact is not the end of the negotiation. It is the beginning of a journey. A journey where Pakistan and Saudi Arabia will no longer walk alone. A journey where unity replaces isolation and strength replaces vulnerability. History will look back at this moment as the dawn of a new era. And the generations to come will say, this was the moment when everything began to change.